Hey, thank you all for joining us today. This is really important to me. I believe in coaching and mentorship and on both sides of the equation. So if you're in this session, you're in the right place. Thank you so much to our sponsors at Product Camp Online. They really make all this really happen. And there's a lot of them this year, so I can't go through all of them, but definitely check out the sponsors, and a lot of them have exhibits. You'll want to check them out. They're giving away a lot of free stuff. So our panelists, this is get started. Cindy Brummer, who's the creative director of Standard Beagle Studio. Dan Corbin, who's a principal product manager at HEB. Isaiah McPeak, who's co-founder and product designer at Pinwheel.com. And myself, I'm Mark Stephan, co-founder and VP of product at ProductHired. So here's all of us, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, real quick, but I just want to let you know that all of us are coaches. And of course, if you want to talk to us, you can on ProductHired, but we've been through all of this. And so that's why these are our panelists. Cindy, would you love to give a quick introduction to yourself?
I would love to. Thank you, Mark. As Mark said, I am with Standard Beagle Studio. I'm the creative director. I wear a lot of hats around here. I am a UX designer. My role at my company is more of product manager, so I kind of span both. And at Standard Beagle, we are an agency working with other companies to help them improve. And one of the things I do on the side is I help junior designers, mid-level designers, mentor them, mostly because when I was first coming up through as a designer, I was too afraid to reach out. And I didn't realize how much of a difference it would make until I started raising my hand saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Can I get some help? And once I actually took that first step of asking for help, everything changed. My whole life changed, and for the better. And so that's, I'm a big believer in coaching and this type of work.
Cool. Dan, go for it.
Hi, Dan Corbin. As Mark mentioned, I work at a company called HEB. If you don't live in Texas, that's a grocery company. I like to think we're the best grocery company in the country. In fact, I think we were awarded that, but that's neither here nor there. I'm also a product management instructor at General Assembly. And I try to stay involved in the product management community. I run a meetup. And I also work on a group called Product Job Club, where we help people land jobs in product management or get promotions, things like that.
Cool. Is Isaiah here? Any Isaiah going on? Was he unmuted?
He's here.
He's waving.
Muted.
There we go. All right. I just got permission to unmute. Thank you.
Isaiah, introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm Isaiah McPeak, and I fell into product management, as many of us did in the mid-2000s, where I didn't know I was a product manager until somebody who was a product manager said, oh, that's called product management. And I ended up finding my first product management mentor was one of the product managers at Prezi back in about 2009. And it was profound for me to realize that there is a role that sees big picture and small picture at the same time, and that it's a unique skill set, and there are actually defined words and ways to do it. And since then, I've had the pleasure of building several startups from the ground up. I'm on one right now called Pinwheel.com, and we, who cares what we do? The point is that mentoring future product managers has been one of my passions. And so the last company I mentored one who's now a product manager over at EA Sports. She has her dream job. And I've been able to have that effect for probably 5 or 6 product managers over my short career in product. And I also always have had a mentor. So I think that's probably why Mark tapped on me for this session. And I can talk a lot about that. And I think there's no substitute, and this is still an emergent field for a person digging into your work in this squishy business and helping you get to the next level.
Cool. And I did a quick intro, but I'm Mark Stephan. I've been in product management in some form for 20 years, right? And I love mentoring people, but I still have mentors. And, I'm a big believer in this, and this is why I created Product Hired, is definitely helping people move advance in their product career. And of course, I know Dan and Cindy and Isaiah, and we're all from Austin, Texas area. So you're definitely going to get our perspective, but I think, we all have a lot to add value. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. If I can figure out how to do that. Stop share. It's jumped over here. And you might want to put yourself on gallery view. So, on speaker view, maybe? I don't know. That way, gallery view, I guess. And that way you can see all of us. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of probe the question, who would like to speak on, why do you think, coaching and mentorship is so important? Even today when, there's so many, general assemblies, which are great, and other companies that you could learn things, but what can you learn through coaching and mentorship that you can't learn through videos and courses and things like that?
I'll give a 90-second answer, which is the courses and videos are great for some of the skill sets that build up to product management. But product management itself is literally how to see and do something about the gray areas. And the gray areas, by definition, you can't take a course in how do I find the gray areas? What are the gray areas? It's an extremely human and synthesizing activity. And a mentor and human can help open your mind to connect all these different skills and tactics and things that you learn elsewhere.
I think also there's only so much that boot camps can teach you. They really can. They're a start, right? Like when you do a course that, to set you off on your career, it's only the beginning. You should be learning the whole time. And there's not as many, like when you're in the thick of work, there's not as many opportunities or as much time to learn. And so having someone that can kind of take you under their wing and explain to you how things apply, just like Isaiah said with the gray areas, but also in terms of just that institutional knowledge and that depth of experience. There's things that I know about that I don't even think of as in terms of skills anymore because I've been doing them for so long. But then when I mention it to someone, they're like, oh, wow, really? And we don't think of it as, seniors in our field. And there's no way you could teach that in boot camp. It would take years, tens of years to learn that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I see that exactly, just Cindy's point. I see that as someone who teaches a 10-week class at Journal Assembly, we're just giving the dusting of what it takes to be a product manager. And really you need that ongoing support and sounding board and it really doesn't matter what level you're at. That's one of the things I think that what is product management is it's kind of unique because you always want people to be pressure testing your ideas. So you should start to think of yourself as a potential mentor very early on because you always want to be in part of that exchange of ideas. And there's so much power in building that network of people to bounce ideas off of and share things. So if you come at it from a approach of I just want to constantly learn, you'll naturally kind of move into being a mentor because you're going to be learning things and then from others, and then it's your turn to share them with people who maybe haven't had a chance to learn that yet.
I actually love that because once I started mentoring, I didn't realize how much I would get back from the people I was mentoring and coaching. I learned so much from those folks that I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. I feel a little guilty too, because I'm like, really? Tell me more about that new tool that you're using. I'd be like, oh, really? So I learn a lot in return. And so that exchange of ideas is so critical, so critical.
Yeah. I have to agree, part of the major skill sets of a product person is continuous learning, right? And every company is different. Every situation is different because there's so many little variables in every company and every product and every feature you're doing. And what I've learned is in mentoring and getting mentored is that, getting a different perspective or asking different questions is incredibly important. And when somebody asks me a question about a situation they're in when I'm mentoring, I may not have been in that situation I haven't been in that situation, but I can use my wealth of experience and we can talk it through and come to some, solutions or ideas or possible scenarios together. And that's where the mentor and the mentee actually both benefit. And that's why I love doing both. And I have mentors and I have mentors, multiple ones, and it's very specific skill sets, like data. I have mentors in data. I have mentors in UX and design. And it benefits me as a person, even 20 years in this, because there's always a unique situation. Otherwise, products would all be the same, but products aren't all the same. And that's why it's so important, product management, to have mentors and to be a mentor. Yeah, so next question. Talk about a story, you guys, as mentors, that you think that you've made major impact into someone's life. Like something a bit of advice you gave and like, wow, it completely changed everything for that person in a good way.
I say, yeah, that's the cinch right there in a good way. I love it when I get a message from someone that I've just talked to and given them advice, especially in the job hunt. That's a lot of what I get. And I see that they got like an internship, at their dream place, or they got a job. And I keep up with people on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, congrats on the job. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I couldn't have done that without your help. And that feels so amazing. Just to see them get their foot in the door. And because that's a lot of the people that I'm talking to are very, very early on their career. A lot of times they're making career changes. So they're very nervous, like, how do I step into UX? How do I step into this product world that I don't know anything about? And there's so much advice coming at them from everywhere. And sometimes it conflicts and they don't know which one to, hold in higher regard. And just being able to kind of help them see the big picture and kind of get them in that next step in the door is a big benefit for me and makes me feel so much better.
Isaiah, Dan, any great ideas?
One of the best pieces of feedback that I was able to give to a junior product manager. So she was about maybe a year and a half in, and there was about a 15-person development team. That really helped her was to build individual relationships with the developers, not to just go through the director of engineering, and not in a subversive way at all. But as a product manager, you don't know what's possible technically if you didn't come from that background. And a lot of product managers came from design or kind of marketing or project management, right? And if that's you, those individual relationships with the developers will give you a far greater sense of priority, sizing, and even possibility. You'll learn that, oh, well, we could just do this and that, plug in a this and that, problem solve. And you're thinking like, what, this I thought was a 9-month project is a 2-hour project, and the opposite, right? This thing that to me seems so simple, it's just a billing system, requires a complete overhaul. And you learn that by, like, each developer has their own specialties, right? They're always in a continuous state of learning. You're not going to get that with just a relationship with the engineer. So after she implemented that advice, and it's not get to know them like, oh, let's have coffee and talk about the kids or whatever, though that's important part of relationship building. It's like, I just want to sit there while you do some work and see, can you tell me what this is? What's that? Why does it work this way? And be interested and curious about their thoughts, and then share some of yours. Like, hey, here's some things I'm thinking about. Do you have any thoughts at all about that? What would they be? And engage their curiosity. That her development team's productivity skyrocketed, and they were producing like 3 or 4 times as much per quarter after she started doing this individual relationship thing. So I think that was a powerful one.
I'm actually struggling to think of like a specific example where one piece of advice was like super impactful, because I tend to work with people a lot and kind of dole out like recommendations and bits and bobs. But one of the things that I've done that has been effective is that I've been pretty thorough in documenting what I've learned over the years and then sharing those resources out, and then encouraging people to do the same. So it has kind of like a little bit of a cascading effect. And for me, like, I don't really think about like, oh, like this is exactly what you need to do. It's more of like, hey, maybe this will work or this. But like overall, like that, what to Cindy's point earlier about like when you see that they make that jump and that they reach that goal, it's really, really like satisfying. And it kind of makes it like, oh, all of the time that I spent kind of helping them tweak their resume or prepare for an interview really makes it worth it.
Well, and Dan, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's rarely like one, from wisdom on high, you said one phrase and it clicked, and and that's how you successfully got, Richard Mineroff to be successful, right? It didn't happen that way. It's a lot of people, walking along the path with you, little bits of advice, little bits of a wisdom, and that's the walk, that's mentorship. And that's coaching is it's not about a moment, but it's about the journey. And I totally agree.
Well, I wanted can I butt in really quick? And I wanted to
Absolutely.
give Dan an example. You mentored me. You met with me for coffee. You shared your resources with me when I was very early on in like stepping into a leadership role. You inspired me to learn product management and bring that into my company. Like I'm here today because of you. Like that's a real thing. Like I wouldn't have been moving into this whole mentorship role if I hadn't gone to you and said, I want to learn more. And you've helped. And that was what, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that coffee. And I think that the concept of like kind of paying it forward and just how incredible, like you've been able to like now working at UT, and I see how many people you're helping. That's something that's pretty special that we have in Austin and that Mark and Isaiah really help facilitate. And I want more people to do. One book recommendation that I want to give to people is Give and Take by Adam Grant. And it just talks about the power of giving. And you think, oh, people will, you might end up a doormat if you're always giving and never expecting anything in return. But what it really does is it really will empower you in your career and in your life. And it just, it's kind of starts a very positive wave.
1000% support of that book.
Yeah. I like to call it servant leadership. One of the big advices I give to people is immediately when you join a team, or even if you've been in it for a while, serve your engineers, serve your designers, be the person who says, I'm here to solve your problems. And early on, sometimes I realized the problem isn't the product. Sometimes they just have something going on. I mean, I have literally done dry cleaning for engineers. I am not joking. I have done it. But the truth is, when I need something, you're right. They are there. Like they're going to jump in and do whatever they can to make you and your product a success. And it's kind of like that. It's like, hey, we're trying to make it thing better. Humans are involved. You got to deal with humans. And part of that is just serving them and just saying like, hey guys, I know you're important to this product. It's not just what you do, but it's you yourself are important to this product. And that attitude really benefits the product and the people on the team. Okay, so a lot of you do mentorship sessions, and we all have valuable time. We all have jobs, right? None of us have a career in coaching. So how do you maximize the time when you mentor someone? Or think of that opposite. What should a mentee do in order to maximize their time with you?
Well, go ahead, Isaiah. You start.
I was just going to say, for mentorship, basically the things that you get from classes and books are probably not what you want from a mentor. So, hey, tell me about how XYZ is not as effective for me, at least the people that I'm coaching and mentoring, as give me a scenario. When you come to the table with a scenario, either something that did happen or something that's coming up, it's working through the scenario that we find all the things that I think a mentor can especially give you power, right? And that's the difference between coach and teacher. I think you should show up for mentorship with wanting coach And that means real game tape, right? As opposed to teacher, which means abstractly, how does one lead an engineering team or whatever?
I totally agree with that. I think that those general questions are, they are hard to answer, and it's hard to give specific direction on. And I sometimes get those like very, very broad, why are many products having such bad UX? I have no idea. How can I help you? Is there a specific instance when I can give you guidance? So maximizing that time is coming with those specific questions. I totally agree with that. And I think coming with a list of questions, because I mean, maybe it's helpful for mentees to sit down with someone and say, tell me about your life story. Well, how long do you have? Because I really only have 30 minutes on the clock. So I think it's a better use of time to say, this is a specific issue I'm having. How can I do this better? Or what has been your experience in this specific scenario? So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I see that very often where you come in and they don't have the specific questions or scenarios, but as a mentor and coach, I've learned to ask what those are. And I recently bought a pair of running shoes where they asked me specific questions. They're like, here are the top 3 sneakers for you. Like, what would an old suburban dad wear around the neighborhood? And they're like, perfect. Thank you for these New Balance. I try to do the same thing with okay, what are you trying to do? What are the specific companies that you're looking at? What matters most to you? And then, because if they're not coming to you with those specifics, you need to kind of suss it out of them.
Okay, guys, we're going to open this up to you guys to ask us questions. You can post it in chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask us directly. And of course, my dog chose this time to me to go outside. So I'm going to step away for 2 seconds and let the dog out. And while you unmute yourself and ask the question.
Who let the dogs out? Mark.
Well, talk amongst yourselves. No.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, anyone can unmute themselves and ask a question if you'd like. You have that power.
Have power.
Okay, well, in the meantime, I'll give my advice on that last question, which is how do you know your expectations and let the coach immediately know what you want to get out of it. So if you book an hour of time with a person, a coach doesn't, they want to help you. And so you need to know how you need help, right? And so be very clear, hey, this is what I want to get out of this at the beginning. And then you can have that conversation and the coach can figure out how to ask right questions and things like that. Otherwise, you at the very end, you ask your question and you're like, oh, wait, I got a meeting I got to go to, and book another time, right? So anybody want to jump in with a question?
I'll go ahead and ask one while the others are thinking of their questions. Would you recommend a mentor within the same company or preferably outside of the company?
I'll jump in with that, and others can jump in as well. So it depends what you need mentorship with, right? The answer is yes, and I think is, definitely probably for your product area, you want mentors within your company. Like I'm in a fintech company, and there's definitely people I talk to quite often about the product line because I wasn't a very strong fintech person when I joined the company. So I do that. For career advice, I don't ask people in my company about, oh, wait, what do you think about this job opportunity that I got from somewhere else, right? So I definitely have outside people who do that. So I think it's about, the mentorship you're looking for and where it's appropriate to get it.
Great. And there's a couple questions coming on in. So Yulia says, I've been looking for a mentor. Is it just a matter of reaching out to a person that I think may be my mentor? I guess my question is, how do I approach this, asking someone to be my mentor?
I could take that one. So I think what you don't want to do is go up and be like, will you be my mentor? Like right away. that is, it's kind of awkward. And really, I think the best way, what I've seen has worked, is look for people who are kind of already like willing to share. So that could be on LinkedIn, they could be doing presentations. I think you need to look at their background, and if they're on a career trajectory that kind of mirrors where you're hoping to go, reach out to them and ask if they'd be willing to do just an informational interview. Just be like, I'd really love to learn more about, I'm really impressed with the, maybe with something that they're doing at their company, or a presentation that they've given, or just how they've been able to kind of, move up in their career, and ask if they would be willing to take, like a little bit, like 20, 25 minutes just to kind of talk about their journey. And then, at the end, ask like, this is really helpful. If there's anything I can do, always offer to reciprocate in some way, and say, if I have questions in the future, would it be okay if I possibly reach out to you? And I think, because like, it isn't like, you have to fit for both sides, it needs to be a match. And so I think that kind of gradual incremental approach is probably the best way to go about it.
Okay, great. Another question is, I would love to hear more about the beginning of the mentor-mentee relationship. I think you addressed some of this, Dan. What are useful things to look for in a mentor? Any specific areas it's helpful to be aligned on? So maybe if someone else can chime in on that one.
So I would say, if you're looking for a career mentor, and by the way, you can have multiple mentors. I actually encourage that, but also understand, you only want people, if you want a long-term relationship, have people that you are going to listen to. And this is a side thing. If I'm meeting with someone regularly and they don't listen to my advice and they continually do something not what I do, I end that relationship, because I'm obviously not helping them, right? And so, but if they do something, or they every once in a while don't do it, that's fine. I just want to know why they didn't take my advice, so I can understand the situation better. But look for someone who's, maybe 5 years where you want to be, or 10 years, and that's for career, right? If you're looking for a particular like data, then you want to look for someone who has skill sets in that area. So I have multiple mentors. I have career mentors and I have skill set mentors, and I kind of separate those two. And it's okay to have multiples, but your mentors will disagree. And I think Cindy mentioned this, is like, when people give you different advice, what you don't want is highly respected people all giving you different advice, and then you get to pick and choose what you want, which ultimately ends up in you just being your own leader. So I'm a big believer in, if you want a career mentor, pick someone who, and stick with that person as much as possible. It's okay to talk to other people, but you definitely want to stick with someone as much as possible and respect their opinions and their thoughts and feeding into your life.
Okay, great.
I have a couple of thoughts I'd like to chip in there, which is, I think at the one end of the spectrum is like the ongoing mentor mentee that maybe developed informally. You bought them coffee and one thing led to another. And then there's the, oh my gosh, I'm stuck today. Mm-hmm. And that's where you go find an expert and you pay them. Other people mm-hmm. call it consulting, right? It's coaching, it's consulting, it's finding someone for high stakes conversation that you have, a high stakes moment. It's not a good idea to involve the more informal, like this person is like the one who really sees you, in a complete high stakes situation where it's like, I have to make this decision and millions of dollars are on the line. That's not really their bailiwick. They're there to help you process how you dealt with it and think about it, things like that. But you don't want to scapegoat that decision on them. And when you really need help in those high stakes decisions, go find an expert.
Okay, great. One final question, and that is, how did you find the most key mentor in your product management journey?
I took a class and he taught it and I reached out. That would be how I found it, is like getting out there and meeting people and trying to learn.
My 3 friends from Washington, D.C., when I moved to Austin, said, hey, we went to this MBA program with this guy, Dr. Stephen Tomlinson, and you need to meet him. And it took probably 2 years to get that first meeting. And then it took off. They were right. And both of our perspectives were like, oh my gosh, how have we not even talked before? And so it took friends saying, this is the person that you want to be like when you grow up. You don't even know him yet. And you've got to meet.
For me, I was actually invited to be part of a product mastermind group. And this is why I think, not just mentoring and helping people that maybe are like 3 to 5 years behind you in their career, but reaching out to your peers now to learn from. That to me has been, that group especially has been so impactful for me, because we're all kind of the same level. We're dealing with a lot of the similar things, but knowing that I can go to them and get sage advice has just been phenomenal.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, that's a wrap for our questions and the panel. So thank you all so much for your great advice and your willingness to help others. And I can see that Mark put into the chat some information about ProductHired. So go check that out. And there's a specific
we have a giveaway.
Giveaway.
17 coaching sessions. So go sign up on the Slack channel. There's a form there, or I think I just posted it. Sign up. We're giving, like, literally, I think I have 18 people who signed up. So you have a high chance of getting free coaching.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll take you up on that. And I wanted everyone to know, I also put in the chat, again, the way to join the PCamp Online Slack. And this channel, folks on this panel will be on the 05 Career Development channel, or in the red room under Wonder Me. So in the chat, I put u10.me/wonder and the password PCamp Online. And that's where you can put in your photo and then join someone by going over to the red room and just join their, almost go on top of their little picture. And then suddenly you'll have audio and video with them. It'll be a great conversation, or you can go over into the networking area. I've got another session coming on soon, so I've got to get off. And that session is on storytelling with Jean Storley. So anyone here who's interested in that is welcome to stay, or you can hop off on Slack or Wonder Me. So thanks again to all of our panelists again, virtual clap. And so thanks for being here. And I look forward to seeing you all at another part of the conference or in Wonder Me. And I appreciate it. Any final words, Mark?
Hey, thanks a lot for coming. And always feel free to reach out to any of us. I mean, we are coaches ourselves, and we're more than happy to help you. We enjoy doing that.